हेलो एवरीवन, टाइप्स ऑफ जॉइंट्स हम लोगों ने वन डे वन टॉपिक में कवर किया था. सो नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू सॉल्व सम MCQs related to types of joints. So first question is, which type of synovial joint permits the multi-axial movement with a round head fitting into a cup-like socket? Saddle joint permits multi-axial. No, I guess the B1 is the right option. Let's do the next. Which joint type is primarily responsible for flexion and extension of knee? तो हम knee का structure देखते हैं तो वो flexion and extension कर सकता है, and सिर्फ flexion and extension एक ही kind of joint कर सकता है जो कि होता है hinge joint. Which joint type allows rotation of head from side to side between the first and the second cervical vertebrae, which is atlas and axis? Okay, it is pivot. Let's see the explanation for this. Atlantoaxial articulation is a pivot joint that permits rotational movement of head. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Interphalangeal joints of fingers are classified as which type of joint? Rotation from long axis, ball and socket, hinge. Which joint type characterizes the hip joint permitting movement in multiple directions including rotation? Hip joint. Hip doesn't move much, so neither it rotates. Ball and socket. So ball and socket, because where the femoral head fits into the acetabulum, it allows flexion, extension, abduction and rotation. The distal tibiofibular articulation, the joint between the distal ends of tibia and fibula, are best classified as which type? It is syndesmosis, the joint with ligamentous connection and has very limited motility. The wrist radiocarpal joint is classified as which synovial joint type that allows flexion, extension, abduction and adduction? It is condylite, allowing the movement in the two planes at the wrist. The synovial joint permits the flexion, extension and adduction movement. Which joint type underlies the thumb carpometacarpal CMC joint, enabling opposition and wide range of motion? So the thumb is a CMC joint is a saddle joint permitting flexion, extension, abduction and opposition and the combined movements of themselves. So it is a saddle joint. Sutures of the skulls are example of which broad joint classification? So it is cranial sutures are fibrous joints connected by dense connective tissue and are essentially immovable. The elbow joint, composed of the humerus, ulna and radius, is the best described as the type of joint is hinge joint because they allow flexion, extension of forearm at the elbow. And also the rotational pronation, supinations occur at the proximal radioulnar joints. Intravertebral joints between vertebral bodies, which is intravertebral discs, are classified as which type? They are classified as cartilaginous joints. They allow limited movement and absorb compression. They provide the cushioning and limited flexibility of the spinal column. Which type of joints are metacarpophalangeal, which is knuckle joint, classified as allowing flexion, extension, abduction and adduction? They are condyloid joints that allow flexion, extension, abduction and adduction, also known as biaxial movements. Which joint type is temporomandibular joint, permitting hinge like opening and gliding movements? Condyloid joint, which allow permitting hinge like and sliding movement in temporomandibular joint. They enable opening and closing of and limited translation. The ankle, also known as talocrural joint, primarily allows dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. Which joint type is it? It is a hinge joint, allowing them, and also they allow inversion and eversion of that occur mainly at subtalar joints. Which joint between the scapular acromion and the clavicle allows sliding movement and is classified how? So the plain gliding joint allows small gliding and rotation between the scapula and the clavicle. Okay, I guess the one wrong answer and rest 14 right. Let me know how many of you guessed it right, and is this series helping you? Let me know. This was this MCQ series of joints chapter. I hope this helped you. Meet you in the next one.